What's up, Jivan back with another video. The goal of today's video is to improve your fighting and your fighting sense. We're going to be going over a new move I've been experimenting with and breaking down some near perfect fights. Fighting's one of the hardest things to get down in the game, so watching a video like this can help you learn a little bit more about how to handle certain situations. Before we hop into this video, I just want to let you guys know I finally released my first ever merch drop. This has been in the works for so long, so if you want to check it out, the link is in the description, vibandjivan.store. Without further ado, let's get into this video. First thing we're going to be taking a look at is this new fighting move that I think has a lot of potential. I'm sure most of you by now have seen this move where you phase a ramp into the box. The way you do this is by looking slightly down and to the left while crouching up and down and placing a ramp. From there, you can pre-box out the side or down low like I'm doing in this clip. The move that I've been experimenting with is a variation of this in combination with pre-edits and rotated builds. First one we're going to talk about is rotated builds. If you rotate a ramp to the side, it can make it very confusing for the enemy and manipulate their mind to go out the right side a little more often. The idea when doing this move is you want to force them out a side. So by rotating the ramp to the right, it may trick them into going right into your trap. The next one, which I haven't experimented much with, is doing this with pre-edits. That there is one example, but I'm sure there's a lot more that people just haven't thought of yet. I personally don't like having my pre-edits on during fights, so I'm not sure it's going to be very useful for me, but maybe I'll start turning on my pre-edits and experimenting with it a little more in the future. Anyways, what you're seeing on screen now is just a few examples of me trying to do the rotated ramp trick. I had to switch up my rotate bind to do this move, and I'm not fully used to it yet, but you can see that it definitely confuses the enemy a little bit. This move is extra useful because if somebody sets up a right hand peek on you like this guy did here, it completely blocks their angle to take that peek, and then they're typically going to reset their wall, which makes the wall one shot so you can take it just like I did here. This move definitely has a lot of potential. I'm going to be toying with it a little more, and I think you should too. The rest of this video is going to be breakdowns of near perfect fights. This first clip is a great example of how you can extend your builds far from you to piece control the enemy. I got this guy coned off from like a box and a half away. To start this fight, I do this high wall side jump protecting my right side. You can see this high wall completely blocks that angle, and I could have even piece controlled through there, but by editing through and extending a ramp and cone this way, I easily get the cone over the opponent and a free shot, and an easy route to the backside to take that last peek shot. Perfect fight right there, and those moves work really well in a lot of situations. In this next fight, I'm completely shambles, and when I'm like this, I don't bring the fight to the enemy, I let the enemy bring the fight to me. I simply look for a lot of sneaky side jump shots where I don't have to waste any mats, and just keep my eyes on the enemy trying to figure out which angles they're exposed from. Playing like this can work really well, but the fights do usually last a lot longer, so if you have a lot of mats, it's better to bring fights to the enemy. But in a situation like this, where we have hardly any mats, playing side jumps, playing off the enemy, that's going to be the best move. This next fight is super high IQ. I started off trying to get some chip damage, but then I set up this ramp as cover. I figured the enemy is going to try to either take this ramp or spray through it and get some tags, but I used that ramp as cover to go for a side jump when they do go for that spray. The enemy doesn't have a view on me here, so they have no way of knowing that I'm jumping to the side. Once I get that first shot, they reset their wall, it's one shot, clean up the fight just like that. In this next fight, I kind of just clapped this kid. I want to throw it in here just to show you a high wall example. I love throwing these in here because I know there's some of you that still struggle with high walls. So you can see that right off the bat, the other player is straight to the left of my cone here. By doing the high wall, I get piece control 2 layers up. Turns out they're a layer lower in this situation, so I just go to the right and cone and floor that off. My initial plan was to double edit down, take their side wall, and go for a peek shot. But when I'm double editing here, I stay back a little bit. I don't over engage and jump right in, just in case they're on a ramp there. Turns out that player was right there, and I was able to take a nice shot from above and finish it up down low. It's important to stay back a little bit when you're double editing just in case they're right there. If you were to just jump right in, you'd be stuck in a 50-50 and give the enemy a chance to kill you. Avoiding 50-50s is one of the most important things in the game. Next fight is a combination of a high wall and extended cone placements. This is something good to have in mind because a lot of times when people do a high wall, their instinct is to only piece control the other side of their wall, but you can also piece control a box over with cones. What I mean by this is exactly what you're seeing on screen right here. When I make that window, I not only place a cone on the other side of the wall, but I also place it a box to the left. This ruins the enemy's momentum, allows me to get over top of them and full box them from above. A lot of times when you get a cone over the enemy, they just turn around, go the other way, and it gives you a chance to box them like a flop. Next clip you're seeing is a situation that could be really awkward if you don't know how to handle it. It all starts with that phase trick where you get a ramp in their box. Sometimes when you get the ramp in their box, they'll phase up the ramp. The goal usually is to get them under the ramp, but this guy goes over top it. When that happens, a lot of times they're gonna hit it right at you. So by jumping to the side here, I give myself a chance to piece control the box that this player is running into and clean up the fight without getting in a 50-50. If you can learn how to handle every single situation with that ramp trick, you're going to outplay so many kids. It's literally a mind manipulation trick and it works so well. Next fight is probably the nastiest clip I've hit in the past month. I threw this clip in here because I did a retake that a lot of pro players use. Here it is in ultra slow motion. The idea is you double edit through the cone, place walls and cones a layer above you once you double edit through. Then you flip the cone that you're on and go up a layer. This gives you an opportunity to not only take high ground safely, but also piece control the enemy like I did here. It's a really advanced but really good build fight move. This next fight was like 99% perfect and we used some crazy plays. Starting with that phase Martaz trick right there, and then the little bait to get the ramp in the enemy's box and get them trapped right underneath it. Everything was beautiful except for the peak shot at the end there. Let's slow that down a little bit. It starts out with me just doing some of my piece control high ground retakes. I post tutorials on these all the time. If you struggle with high ground retakes, I definitely recommend checking them out and learning some of them. Right here, when the enemy gets the cone over my floor, I immediately assume they're gonna edit that cone. This situation pops up a lot. By editing the back corner of your floor, you can set up a Martaz peak from back here. I do this all the time and it works so often. Following that, I noticed I got the back walls behind the enemy here, and so if I can get the ramp in there too, I have the opponent almost full boxed. That ramp not only blocks the shot, but it gives me an opportunity to get in the box to finish it up. This next fight is in late game. I actually got pretty weak here because I was getting held, and so the first thing I do was try to get a little bit ahead of the circle and give myself some breathing space. This person was psychoing me, and when that happens, a lot of times they don't use their brain as much, so I used that to my advantage and got the kill. Once I get this first shot, I have ramps built to his right, so it's very unlikely he's going to go over there, so I immediately go to the left to pre-box him. Usually they're going to try to go to a side where it's not congested, so going to the left here worked out perfectly. Now this next fight is probably something that a lot of you struggle with and you don't know why. This was a situation where there were two players in this build fight with me. The thing you gotta do is try to avoid a 50-50, play a little bit further back. The reason is the third party is always going to engage as soon as they hear shots. So if you're in a 50-50 and you get third partied, you're going to die. Instead, you want to avoid a 50-50 at all costs. Notice how I get an angle on this guy, but I jump out of there because I didn't want to take a 50-50. This was smart because very soon after that third party came from above, I was able to block that off and surprise him and get that quick kill. So if you're fighting multiple players, stay a little bit further back and you'll survive a lot more often. The next clip I'm throwing in is a very good example of an optimal mongrel edit. I really recommend doing mongrels through windows for the most part, but you can also do it this way where you reset the wall and then make a window. The thing you gotta notice about this mongrel is that the opponent was pressed all the way up on the front of the wall, which is why I hugged all the way to the left when taking this peek shot. If I would have done a normal window peek here, the opponent would have been able to shoot me, but instead, the opponent shot the wall and I shot him. Next fight is a beautiful box fight to learn from. Notice how every time I try to go for the wall, I'm doing it from a safe distance and giving myself a chance to duck behind cover if they take a peek shot. Some people really struggle with this, and if that's the case, I recommend running more box fights and practice claiming things from far away. In this fight, I'm trying to bait him to take a peek so I can get that health advantage, and it worked. Hitting a peek shot like that and not taking damage back takes so much practice in box fights. But once I got that health advantage, that wall was one shot, I pushed forward, easy clap. This next fight is from my highlights. This guy got outsmarted so hard here. So the other player got a health advantage on me. He was really good, but because he had a health advantage, like I said, he lost a few brain cells and got in that psycho mindset, and I walked him right into a trap. First thing to note is this counter peek right here. I hugged the back of the cone while trying to take the wall. Once I get the wall, I counter piece control my way out of that box. I claimed this wall just to be sure that I can make it out of the box. If the enemy claimed it, then I would have been stuck there and I would have died. Once I actually get out, I know the opponent's gonna keep on psychoing, so I just wait for that pre-fire opportunity and then do this very optimal edit out the side right-hand peek shot. One of my favorite moves in the game right there. Next clip, some of you might have seen, I made a video on this new phase trick. I figured I'd throw this example in here because why not? Basically, if you're on a ramp and you have a wall to your right, if you stand in the perfect spot, you can just slip walls straight through your wall. From there, I pre-box him out the other side while hitting that pre-fire and clean the fight up perfectly. Next fight is a great example of letting the enemy make mistakes. This player was very aggressive, and knowing that, I played backwards and piece controlled backwards. You can see the whole time I'm piece controlling, I'm walking backwards and letting him walk into traps. This playstyle can work really well if you know you're playing a very aggressive player. So right here I see the enemy just psychoing forward and I'm just setting up trap after trap, letting him walk into my builds and getting free shots on him while he's doing that. We've covered so much, but we got just a few more clips to go. I'm throwing this clip in here because it's just a perfect example of playing off the enemy's movement. Kind of like the last clip. This whole fight I'm just trying to predict the enemy's movement, positioning myself in place to take perfect peek shots and never losing track of the enemy. And then right here in the fight is a move I do all the time. First thing I do is try to take that cone. I get it first try and edit that cone and I try to bait them to peek through the floor. You can almost always get a pre-fire there because they almost always edit that floor. Next I try to phase in to clean up the fight, but I don't phase in. So I just keep my gun aimed at the enemy just in case if they edit me down. They didn't, so I just keep the pressure on and I eventually get this free shot. Very calculated fight right there. Here's another quick example of that cone pickaxe play. I'm telling you, they almost always go for this peek through the floor. You can catch so many people off guard with this, get a quick health advantage in the fight, or get the kill like I did here. You can do a similar thing with the wall, just do a lot of baiting on the wall, like I'm doing in this fight. Once you get that health advantage and they reset their metal wall, you can usually get in pretty quickly and finish up the fight like I did there. Anyways guys, fighting takes a long time to learn in this game. Hopefully these videos help you out on your path to become a better fighter. If they're helping, be sure to hit that like button, sub if you're new, use code JivanTV, and don't forget to check out the merch, vibeandjivin.store. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.